What's up YouTube, this is Ultimate Shield 340 back again with another Destiny 2 video. So in today's video I wanted to talk to you about this Nightfall that we are doing and what I now consider to be more of a failed build. Earlier, before I actually created a build that I titled, well, at least where I said was, I felt that I had essentially cracked the code, so to speak, of stasis for me personally, and then adapted the fragments and aspects in such a way that would work out in my benefit, that would be the best for my personal play style. And this we're playing this, I think this is a master, it's either a master or a grandmaster Nightfall, I can't remember. And we're going through this, and one thing I noticed about this build that I had like sort of showed to you all in the one of my previous videos, which I will link down below in the description, that it just didn't feel right. And what I mean by that is that it's not like the build it's functional, but for some reason it just needed more polish, and I didn't know what exactly it was missing. And the only way I knew there was something sort of wrong with this build was because I wasn't having as much fun as I typically would have. Whenever you have a build that's like perfect, it's one of those things. It's like, you are having a whole lot of fun. You're able to sort of adapt what you are doing to the needs of the moment, and anytime a new situation comes up, you're able to use the build and have an answer for it, ideally, you know what I mean, because of your own personal play style and knowing how to handle yourself in the middle of combat. And in this build, it just didn't flow right. One thing I did notice about my own gameplay after looking back at it is that I should, first and foremost, I should be using the this right here, the Horfall Z, the exotic talent, where I am crushing or actually creating these stasis crystals and then shattering them. And that's what I should have been doing first and foremost in this build. That's one of the downsides that I wasn't really utilizing correctly. And then not to mention that once I looked through the fragments and aspects again, I did miss out on, I believe it was called Whisper of Fissures, where it increases the size of the slows that you create, size and burst of the slows that you create, and anytime you shatter a stasis crystal, it will also increase the AoE damage of that as well. So I missed out on that, and so I really feel like in the moment when I made the build, I felt like it played well in solo play, but then when I'm now here playing in the Grandmaster higher level difficulty and playing with my teammates, it just didn't flow correctly, and I wasn't having as much fun because I felt more like, although I was helping the group move forward in a meaningful way, I felt like my rhythm of this build was off, and I really hope that makes sense. These guys were great, Sloth and Ronan, they're really great, they're fantastic. Sloth is suspending a lot of those guys, and I believe also Ronan's also playing Strand, which is also fantastic as well. Sloth also pointed out the fact that in the subclasses, if you suspend somebody and then I also freeze them, we essentially overlap or cancel out the ability. So if he suspends somebody and then I immediately freeze them, they'll become unsuspended and then they'll be frozen, and then once they break out of being frozen or they get shattered, then they will then be free, as opposed to if I had done nothing, they'd still be suspended. So something to think about while I continue to look over this build and go through some things. And I wanted to go ahead and say that although this build is, I consider it failed now here at this point, because again, I'm not having as much fun. There's nothing really wrong with the build per se, it's just that I think that maybe I could make some changes to the build to make it flow better with my own personal playstyle. I think that if you are somebody who enjoys stasis and is looking for that kind of thing for stasis, where you try and get away from the stasis crystals, I think that build that I posted from before, again, that build will be down in the description. I think that you can go ahead and look at it, and I think it's a pretty decent build, although I think there are better options in the fragment slots specifically, which I again will make a new video about that and address why I think that, and showcase the changes in that for your viewing pleasure. But that being said, we are going through this fairly well so far, although this is harder content for us, and this is actually a very tough for all of us. One thing I will say that I do like about this build is that it does do a very good job of kind of locking down champions. As you see, I went ahead and threw my Dust Field Grenade over at that champion, and he was pretty much locked down for a time. And if I had more DPS, maybe I could have been able to kill him outright there. But then also one of our teammates was down as well, so unfortunately we weren't able to kill him outright. But that's one of the biggest aspects of this build, and biggest things that you can do as far as stasis is concerned, is that you inherently have a lot of potential to lock down a lot of targets because of how stasis works. You'll either freeze the target outright for the barrier champions and they won't be able to raise their shield. Unstoppable champions, you're able to again freeze them and keep them from regenerating, and of course DPS them. And then the unstoppable, I think it's unstoppable, I forget, whatever the third type is, shattering them will also stun them as well. So Stasis does very well in locking down champions and things. And that's what it's very great at, I think, which is one thing I would say that's a little bit maybe potentially better than Stasis or Strand, I'm sorry, is the fact that once you are able to lock those targets down and freeze that target, you are able to, just by nature of freezing them and then shatter. The shatter does actually do a lot of damage in and of itself, as opposed to just Stasis, as opposed to Strand. Once you suspend them, you also have to then DPS in and of itself. Just suspending them is not doing DPS. Just of course, the initial ability hit is going to damage them, of course, but then after that, you have to actually follow up with your own DPS, as opposed to after you freeze them, you'll be able to do the shatter damage and then, get additional damage off of that, just because you froze yourself. Something to think about.
Down. Guardian down.
One other thing here that I'm noticing, again, looking back at my own gameplay, I'm playing rather recklessly, as you see me do stuff like that. I just was not playing this build, even how I'm playing this build, I'm not playing this build to its optimal way. What I should be doing again is this, as far as the Stasis Titan is concerned, the Behemoth, if you're going to use it without the Stasis Crystals, at least the way I have it here, or at least not relying on Stasis Crystals as much, it has to play at a certain rhythm, right? So what I mean by that is that once you throw your original Dust Field Grenade, you should almost immediately do your Rally Barricade if it is available, so you can shatter the crystals and immediately start working on getting that your Dust Field Grenade back ASAP. I haven't been doing that so much in this, and looking back into it, I'm just man, I'm dying a lot. I'm not using cover to my advantage, and I say all these things not so that I'm necessarily ultra hard on myself. Like, I think that, you know, I'm just being critical of my own gameplay, not because I'm like, it's not in a self-deprecating kind of way, but just, you know, these are some things that, you know, I could do better. These are some things that, you know, whenever I do make this addition to the build, or, you know, an update to the build, you know, I should just go ahead and, you know, recognize where my shortcomings were, because you can have the best build in the world, but if you're not playing it the way it's meant to be played, or playing the build to its strengths, you're not going to be as successful. And this is kind of what I'm doing here, where I'm not playing the build in the way that it's supposed to really be played. And so I don't know why I'm just out of the rhythm of this for whatever reason. I think part of the other reason why is because I'm playing in the Grandmaster Nightfall. And we are, I don't know if it's a Grandmaster, but it's like at least a Master level Nightfall. And, you know, I guess I'm a bit out of my element as well. So all those things taken into account, I take it into as a failed build because it's not as effective as I thought it was supposed to be. And again, you know, room for improvement, make some changes, and again I die yet again.
Guardian down.
Now, here you'll see me actually use the build in the way that I think it was, I originally was supposed to intended it to be with this variant champion. I did actually miss the Duskfield grenade, that's okay. Then I switched to my grenade launcher and then start to build the Duskfield grenade back as soon as possible. I actually got lucky in the fact that he actually jumped right back into the Duskfield grenade, and now I'm going to activate the mode for the gun, and then throw another Duskfield grenade, and then this way I'm like continuing to DPS this guy. He continues to be completely frozen over and over and over, and with that I'm able to DPS him down long enough to bring him down to the finisher range and then kill him outright. So in theory, you know, if you were able to chain the freezes enough like that, that's how you're supposed to really, you know, utilize the build in a way that you're able to kill those champions. But in this case, in my case, a lot of things sort of lined up in the right way, as opposed to me just being skilled, or that the build was able to sort of shine through. That's what really happened there, as opposed to, you know, the build being enough to sort of answer the needs of the moment, right? And that's why that's another indicator where I felt like, hey, you know, this build isn't the best, and I need to make some changes to it. And, you know, beyond the fact that I'm just dying a lot, I think a lot of that also has to do with not so much the build, that's more of a personal player thing, that's on me. But you know, it's just, I also don't have certain weapons to deal with some of these champions. A lot of the stopping power for me deals with being able to freeze a lot of these guys, and if I can't freeze them for whatever reason, then I'm sort of SOL. So that's another unintended downside that I saw about this build while I went into Grandmaster. Although you don't necessarily need like pulse rifles or the piercing sidearms or anything like that while you're utilizing the build, or stasis for that matter. But it's probably a good idea for you to have like something that, you know, you can fall back on in the event that, you know, all your abilities are down and now you have a champion that's standing in front of you. I think it's best to, you know, utilize what you have available to you to sort of win the day.
We'll take all the help we can get.
So I think I'm probably going to go ahead and end the video here, or at least close to here right now. And I'm going to just say a few things before I, end the video officially. But, it's great playing with these guys, and, being able to, use the builds in higher level content really sort of shows you the shortcomings of the build in and of itself. What I need to do is go back to the drawing board, figure out a few things, and then work on a few different fragments to sort of pair with the weapons and my own tendency as a player. First and foremost, I want to thank Sloth Moods and Morning Kazi. This actually was a lot of, even though my build in and of itself wasn't contributing to the amount of fun I had, just running things with these guys made it fun. So, I want to go ahead and, thank them for their time and playing this with me. Unfortunately, we were not able to pass this mission, but it's okay. We all kind of came into the mindset of we're just going to do our best and see kind of what happens. And so, it's no big deal. But I think as time continues, we're going to, take another look at things and see what we can do to sort of make it so that we're able to pass this a bit more consistently and, all those things. So other than that, I just want to tell you all, thank you for watching my video. If you're here for this long, please feel free to like and comment and subscribe on the video for more content so that you don't miss anything. Again, really appreciate you all. The channel is growing a little bit more. I do have a few more new subs, so that's been pretty awesome. So thank you all for your time. And yeah, other than that, it's the Ultimate Shield 340 signing off, and I'll see you in Destiny 2. Peace.